Hi everyone, welcome to Financial Building Blocks. Today we're going to go right into wealth building and the essential skills to achieve $1 million net worth. So I know this is everyone's dream and goal, and my job and my hope is that I can be a part of that to get you to that point. So first thing is some of the previous videos I've talked about with mindset, which are hugely important that relate to this video. So if you hadn't had a chance, please watch that one. And right now we're going to go into some of the actionable steps that I think that you would need to try and incorporate to get to your $1 million net worth. So the biggest one that you're going to have to think about is trying to understand that it's a combination of multiple skills that you need to incorporate. So the first one is in conjunction with the mindset is realizing that you're need to pull in multiple different facets of skills to get where you want to be. So, and that is each and one of you a personalized plan to do that. So I can't tell you, hey, you need to do this. You need to understand your situation, where you are, and where you want to be, and then bring in the skills and tools that you need to get to where you want to be. So, building off of that. Number two would be to create goals that are appropriate for you, and that's tailoring it to your situation. So whether it's your increase in income, whether it's providing you some peace of mind when you're structuring how you want your finances to be, a whole bunch of different things can come into there. So you really need to sit down and determine what's important to you and how you're going to do that. And in another video later on, I'll show you where my goals are and how they relate to what I try to do. So it all really comes together. So you don't make your goals, then they sit off on the shelf and they don't really provide any information for you. They're not there just for you to do. They're there to provide you direction. So 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months from now, when you look at your goals, they provide you clear direction on where you want to go. You can revise them, after you've reached certain plateaus or you've reached a goal, and then you have to edit and change things. That's a good thing. That's a fun thing, to be honest with you. When you achieve a goal, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it starts to build confidence. So the next time you do it, you're like, all right, it took me 6 months to achieve this goal. So how can I do that in 5 months next time? And you find ways to shorten the learning curve and shorten the amount of time it takes to achieve your goal. Third thing is you have your goals and to give you an idea and perspective would be like, okay, I'm going to have these goals over the course of this year, whatever it is. And then the next thing is you're going to break those into shorter and longer term goals where you can achieve that long-term goal. So in the previous video, I talked about the 12-week year. Okay, that's a perfect example of when to implement this. Okay, it gives you steps on way to do it. And once you create that broad template and perspective, then you can shave it down into where you want it to go. So you're going to start with your goals, and then you do your long-term and short-term goals. Then from there, you're going to talk about your income and your expenses and how you're going to be able to navigate that to achieve your goals. So all of these essential skills, whether it's goal building, long-term, short-term, broad perspective, income, that all comes together. It's not done independently, like you do this one over here and it doesn't impact over here. It does. It does come together. So the minute you realize that everything is interacted and interchangeable with each other and impacts one another, that's where you're going to actually find success. And that's where when you look at your income and expenses, you're going to try and find a way to increase your income and decrease your expenses. And what the difference in between is, that's the money that you're going to be able to use to invest. So, or to provide you a sense of security, whether it's to pay off debt, to pay off bills, or to just set aside in a savings account. If you don't know what you're going to do right now, that's fine. That's actually perfect because you need to be able to build up that gap between your income and expenses so that it gets bigger and bigger and you're able to give yourself more opportunities. So that's where a lot of people I think fail, is they get to that point and they're like, okay, how do I do this? How do I increase my income and decrease my expenses? Well, that's a personal thing. You look at your budget, you look at everything that you have written down and be like, where can I save money? So after that, this directly goes right into budgeting. So you have your income, your expenses, which are all topics that really need a deep dive that I don't think I can do right now. I just want to give you the broad strokes and be like, hey, these are things that I should be working on. And when I give you these videos, it's checklists like, okay, I'm going to write this down. I should be working on this over the next week. I should be able to try and identify my goals. For 2 weeks after that, it's my long-term, short-term goals. This is not something you throw together in one night and then expect in 6 months that you're going to be reaping, $20,000, $40,000 a month in income, or, have all the things that you wanted in your goals. It's not going to work that way. Okay. For some, it may. But for the majority of people in this country and in the world, it's not going to work that way. So you have to give yourself an appropriate time frame to deal with these, and it deals with patience and it deals with a long-term perspective. So once you have your budgeting down and everything else is falling into place, you have your goals, long-term, short-term, all the things that I just talked about. Now you're going to be looking at identifying ways that you can actually either invest or provide your financial security or whatever lies with your goals that you created. So that's where the fun comes in. And it does get scary. It requires a lot of education. It requires a lot of, I'm going to expose myself to this vehicle, stock market, real estate, whatever vehicle that you think is going to give you the best opportunity to improve your financial situation. And that's all individual. For me, it was real estate. And then from real estate, it kind of bridged into, all right, I'm going to go invest into the stock market more than I would normally do, or through my, employer-sponsored opportunities, or through individual ones that I've created myself. Now I really want to dive into this. So for me, it started off as real estate because that's something I could actually wrap my head around and understand in a very decent amount of time. It didn't take me a huge investment. I had a lot of reading. I had a lot of people I talked to. So each time you identify opportunities, you need to then become as educated as you can in them. So for real estate, I read as many books as I could. I talked to real estate investors. I listened to podcasts. I listened to everything that I could get my hands on to become knowledgeable, so that when I got comfortable talking to people, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And I knew that I could convey to them what I needed to get out of this situation. So from there, then I was able to understand, okay, this is not a good deal because this is not going to make me any money. It's going to cause it to be a shackle to my leg, and I don't want that. Pass, move on to the next one. So once I mastered that one, then the next opportunity was for me. After a short period of time, I accumulated some properties. I'm like, okay, what's the next opportunity that I want to explore? And it took me some time to kind of sift through and filter it out because I had things set in place. And then it was, okay, people make money in the stock market. How can I do that? Okay. And personally, I chose the stock market because I wanted another vehicle to get me where I wanted to be, but I wanted to do it a different way than real estate. Diversification becomes an important piece when you're looking at your financial education and your financial stability with everything you have going on. So the stock market was an intriguing piece. And I'll be honest with you, I was really piqued just before Bitcoin became a big thing. I was reading up on it. At that point, it was like 2 cents a share. It was ridiculously undervalued at that particular time, with no idea that it was going to explode. So I remember I had a notepad very similar to this. This is just something I took and put duct tape on it. But I went in and I wrote down everything I could. And this is one of the ones that I started when I was going to get in the stock market, as far as what I wanted to do, how I wanted to invest, what was important to me. So I sat down and I did this. And I researched and I did everything I just told you I was supposed to. However, I got to one important step and I didn't do it. That's the biggest drawback I had. I had everything planned. I had money set aside where I was going to do it. I felt comfortable in knowing that that money could go there and do nothing, which is another important piece. Having those plans set in place and you're budgeting money, and then you're like, all right, now I'm going to invest in this. That's the flex point. That's where you're like, okay, am I willing to take my money that I just saved, sweat, budgeted, did everything possible and put it into something and hope that it works? And I got to the point and I'm like, I have a better use of this money right now. So I took that money and I put it somewhere else. Now, not exaggerating, to be honest with you, that would have been a multi-million-dollar mistake, which it was. The money I had allocated to buy all those shares turned into a multi-million-dollar mistake that since then I learned from. Trust me, I kicked myself quite a bit, and I still kind of do at this point. When I described it to my kids, they looked at me and they just have to pick their jaw up off the floor. Is that was an opportunity that I took time and I researched, invested, felt comfortable with taking the money that I saved and then trying to invest in that. And then Bitcoin does what it does. And so the point of that story is to help you realize that you don't want to be in that situation. Okay? But it also becomes a very personal decision when you've taken all your hard-earned money and you've saved it, and you're like, man, I worked up so hard to save that 5, 10, 15K. Do I really want to put it over there when I don't know what's going to happen? Well, that's the truth of investing. You don't know what's going to happen. So you have to educate yourself and get the most information possible so you can make a better decision. Okay. So going back to that, after that, I'm like, yes, I want to get in the stock market, but I want to do something that I could actually get a great return on and have the least amount of risk possible. So I went into the stock market and I'm like, where can I do that? Researched it, watched videos on YouTube, grabbed books. I went to Barnes and Noble. I did everything I could to get as much information as possible. I grabbed a couple investing books. Day trading, not my thing. Something maybe I want to kind of tinker with. But I did want to invest in the stock market and have money work for me. That's important for me. I got to a point where I was working so hard for my money that I wanted my money to work for me. So that was an opportunity that I explored. So I had real estate, I had stock market investing, I had other investments, whether it's life insurance, when you structure it appropriately, can work for you. So I wanted to find ways that I could have my money work for me. So I continue to explore those, all of those. And that's part of the goal of having this channel is that I want people to be able to share with me ways they've had money work for them that I can then implement. Because this is very beneficial to you, but I also want information out of this because I want to become better. So then going in line with number 6, number 7 is being able to maintain everything that you've achieved. That's huge, and that takes another set of skills and information to help you keep everything that you've accumulated. So you're going to want to find ways to structure everything, whether it's in your real estate portfolio, your stock portfolio, or whatever other ways you have money coming in, is to protect that. Okay, and that's becoming very in tune with it. You don't want to just set it and forget it, which some people view as how you want to do investments. I agree and I disagree. I agree in the sense that I want to be able to set it like my stock market investing is set it and forget it. However, I do need to watch it. I do need to stay up on readings. I need to stay up on trends. I need to stay up on what company is doing what. Just recently, one company, I'll give an example. AT&T decided to either reduce or remove their dividend, which I invest in dividends. And I'm like, that doesn't really work for me. So to get ahead of the curve, I had to make some adjustments in my portfolio, which, to be honest with you, I think really worked out for a good thing because it helped me expand upon some of the other opportunities in the stock market that were beneficial for me. So that's just a point of being able to not just set it and forget it, but to maintain everything that you have. The last thing you want to have is have an investment that you haven't looked at, haven't paid attention to, and all of a sudden it just deteriorates and you've now lost money in the blink of an eye, and all that hard work that you've done is gone down the drain. So that's an important thing what keeps everything together. So all of these skills, these essential skills that we've talked about, are important because they all work together and they all require your attention in them. And I know people are going to say, well, I have this going, I have that going on. Trust me, I have a lot going on myself. But I don't want to lose what I've built, and I want to continue to build what I have. So I have to really stay on top of it all the time. Being able to jump in and jump out, pay attention to how the stock market is going, look at my real estate portfolio and be like, okay, where are the deficiencies that I'm at? Where is my income suffering because my expenses have just jumped because of inflation right now at this point or whatnot, or other expenses that I have. So I have to constantly be in tune with that. Otherwise, everything that you have could be wiped out in the blink of an eye. So all of these essential skills are going to be working together to help you achieve that $1 million net worth. And that's at a bare bones. I'll be honest with a lot of you. Like I'm talking about $1 million. We'd be talking about multi-million dollars if you actually take this and implement it and ride it out. And I don't just mean over like 3-4 months you're going to do this and then after 3 months change and do it again. Use these and start to build on them for long-term planning. Like I have a 15-year plan that I implement and use that helps me come back to the 2 or 3 years that I'm in. And then from there, I'm able to kind of shift it down to what does this year look like in relation to what I want next year. So that really gives me perspective. So I hope all of these have been very informational for you. I mean, at some point, future videos, I'm going to have a deep dive into all of these. I don't want to just give you these and be like, all right, good luck. I want to give you these so you actually are successful. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear if this really works for you. I want to be able to bounce ideas back and forth. I want you to ask me questions. Say, hey, you mentioned this in the video. How did you do that? How did you create your goals and your plans, and how does it all work together? How do you monitor that? What does it look like on a daily or monthly perspective? So again, I want all of this to be useful and helpful. The goal with this is to give everyone a chance to be successful in the financial field, to be able to be home and be confident and comfortable, to be able to provide kind of a nest egg for you that continues to build. And if you do it appropriately in the right way, it will continue to build and work for you. That's really been my mantra, is I want everything that I do to work for me. At some point, it has to shift for me working for everything to have it work for me. So that's the first and foremost thing that I keep on my mind when I look at either investments or with every dollar that I have that comes in. Is this going to work for me? Because that's what it needs to do. And people that don't identify and see that end up struggling and working for things for the rest of their lives. So again, huge information here. Please give a like if you like the channel. Please send me any questions that you have, and hope to see you guys in the next video and the multiple videos, and you can look at all of these things that I've talked about in more detail later on.